Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. What's the
right.
title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
But
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to a brand new episode of Sober, Not Mature. And actually, when I just started off there, I sounded like Peter from the Brady Bunch when he hit puberty. I heard my voice and I'm like, oh, welcome. I believe I hit puberty a couple years ago, so I think I'm good. So it might have just been, I don't know, just something in my voice. But
take a minute, look down, make sure everything's all right.
Yeah, it's all good, man. Still hanging in there. Hello. But so you worked today again, huh?
Yeah, I did.
Extra money for the summer?
Yeah, exactly, man. I was looking over my schedule for the next month and a half or so, and it's like, man, every weekend I got something. What will I do if I stop drinking?
Seriously, I was just going to ask you because that's what you had texted me, and I had texted back because you were talking about, and I took off of work a little bit early today, and actually this afternoon I got a couple of things done, but just packing up for some stuff. And I know I've talked about it a little bit, but I don't know if we want, I can dip into that a little bit more about what's going on with me and stuff. I guess it's sort of a sobriety thing, gifts of sort of thing. But
right.
Plenty of other things we can talk about. But yeah, figured we can check on that or dip into that if you're up to it when we got a couple of minutes on this. But as always, I can start off with the stats if you'd like.
Oh, sure. Why not?
All right. Yeah, it always gives you a minute to rest your voice anyhow before we start.
Rest my eyes, rest my brain. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So followers on Instagram, we were up just 58 new followers this week, but we're at 1,215 followers on Instagram. So nice little number there. Right. Plays on the podcast. We had 100 plays, so 100 additional plays this week. So now we're at 1,120 plays on the podcast, which is nice. So kind of the same thing as, I don't know, a month or so ago where, we were a little low on the followers, and still I check out the website every once in a while, and still not a huge number of people visiting the website, but people are going to the store link, which I'll talk about in a second here too. But yeah, so it's, I don't know, it's been back and forth. But then again, it's summertime. Hopefully people are out actually enjoying their sober lives, right? Right. So the top episodes, your episode number 3 is still at number 1. Mm-hmm. And that's at 93 plays. Episode 13 is at number 2 with 87 plays. My episode actually popped into the number 3 spot. So episode number 1 is 80 plays, and that's my episode. Episode 10, I still love to refer to that as the vodka bottle episode. That's at 78. And then episode number 4, which is our first 30 days, at 75 plays. And we'll break down with the men and women again. I think it's the same exact as it was last week. 56% women, 40% men. But one of the bigger changes, and it was Apple Podcasts has been starting to inch up a little bit, but now 40% of our plays are through Apple Podcasts, and then 37% through Spotify. And on that, and I wanted to touch on, the merchandise a little bit, but the free way that you guys, anyone that's listening, the free way that you can support the podcast is whether it's Apple Podcasts, whether it's Spotify. Once again, those are the two big ones. Go on there. If you like what you hear, give us a 5-star rating. And once again, like I said, what it does is it from what I understand, it ranks the episodes up a little bit better, makes it more searchable, pops up in a search a little bit more actively for people who are looking for sober podcasts. So once again, obviously it's free. You can leave a review or not. If you just want to leave the 5-star rating, that's up to you. You can also rate the podcast through our website, which again is SoberNotMature.com. So you got 3 different areas that you can just do those reviews, and we'd appreciate it. Once again, it helps to spread the word, and like I said, it gets it out there for other people that are looking for sober podcasts. Now, the other thing too, and we've added a little bit more merchandise to our store. You can access that through either our Instagram page. There's a link in the highlights, or you can also just go to our website, which once again, SoberNotMature.com, and click on the store link, and that takes you to all the different things that that we've created. T-shirts, tank tops, we did a coffee mug, we did a water bottle, phone cases for both a Samsung and iPhone phone cases, and we're getting a little bit of activity on there, and that's another way to support us. We're not making a ton of money on those things, but it's a little bit. And basically what it comes down to is it's an opportunity for us to use that in areas to grow the podcast. We also have the donate page on our website, also a link through the highlights. If you choose to, cool. It's the Buy Me a Coffee app is what we're using. So you can donate to the podcast also. But I'll go back to the initial thing I said. A great way to support us is just to get on there and leave a review. It gives us an opportunity again to grow and get the word out there of what we're doing. So all in all, like I said, I mean, we're getting a lot of activity, a lot of interaction from people, and we truly appreciate everyone that's listening, everyone that's following. It's like I said, it's been a lot of fun to watch this thing grow, and it's coming up on and now I'm fronting 4 months on Monday.
We'll see you on Monday.
Right, yeah. Talk to us on Monday. Yeah, we'll talk. Right. We'll talk to you next Friday if we make it. But yeah, I mean, we're a few days shy of that. But I thought about that. I'm like, damn. I mean, that's again, we've had decent growth, and we truly appreciate it. So,
we do.
So yeah. So that was obviously the number one thing, and the other thing that I was thinking about too, and there was I was listening back to one of the episodes. Well, and we had talked about obviously the hardcore AA and all those sort of things, and I thought about, we've mentioned Jack a couple of different times, but I don't think we really explained who he was and what he did. Do you want to take a minute and just, I don't think anyone outside of the Cleveland area would know. I mean, they probably wouldn't know who Jack is, but he was a huge influence on us. I've got ties to him. We all have ties to him just by being, a part of the Keating Center. But do you want to just give like a brief overview of who Jack was and what he did?
To the best of that I can. Well, my head was still up my ass for about 6 months. Jack passed about 6 months before we got to the Keating Center. Jack was the founder, along with Phyllis, of the Keating Center, the place we got sober. He was also, like I said, we never got. Did you ever meet him through your dad at any point? Yep. Okay, you did. See, I never did. Again, my head was still at my ass. I missed him by about 6 months. I'm sure you can speak to this. Apparently, he was a very large man, and not fat, just a big dude. But he was a presence in Cleveland AA. He was very active. He helped a lot of people. Again, he started the Keating Center before it was called the Keating Center. It was called the Freedom House. Before he ran that, he worked at Stella Maris, which is where your dad got sober, which is a very old one of the original sort of sober living facilities anywhere, really. I know Stella's has been around for a very long time. It's down in the flats. It was a, from my understanding, it started off, well, Stella Maris is Star of the Sea, and it was a place where drunken sailors and off the Great Lakes, and it was a place for them to sober up, from my understanding.
Really?
Yeah. One of my favorite bands in the world is the Dead Boys. They're a Cleveland band and punk rock band, and lead guitar player Cheetah Chrome wrote a book several years ago, and he lived in the projects down in the flats, which was right by Stella Maris, and he actually mentions it in the book. He talked, the place where all the drunks went when he was a kid. He remembered it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's been around there a long time, and Jack was a huge part of that. And Jack, if you talk to people that have been around AA in Cleveland for a long time, everybody knew Jack. Jack was at lots of meetings. Jack helped lots and lots of people. And anytime it comes up in my life, I always say I'm standing in his shadow. I never got to meet the man, but I definitely feel his influence.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a thing because he was the and what I ended up doing. I'm gonna read this off because I thought it's kind of a nice summary of what we were talking about with how Cleveland AA was, and it was my dad wrote when he died, and it was November of 2009. So yeah, you're right. I mean, whatever that was, 5 months, 6 months before we got in, you're exactly right when he passed away, but.
Right.
So just to step back just a little bit, Jack ended up being my dad's sponsor. So my dad was in the program, bounced in and out, and he actually talks about this in what I'm going to read. But knew Jack, and I had met Jack when I was my dad got sober when I was, I think 12. And I think I met Jack probably when I was, 13, 14, 15, so I was still a relatively little kid. And he was a big dude. I don't know how tall he was, but everyone always talks about how big his hands were, and I shook his hand, and I remember that. That is and I met him at Stella Maris, and I know I met Phyllis at that time frame too. And my dad had actually, after he got sober, my dad worked for Stella Maris for a little while, volunteered, and did some of their books and stuff like that. So I mean, he worked along with those guys, but my dad ended up moving out of the Cleveland area, but this obituary. So when Jack died, and my dad didn't end up, I forget why he didn't end up making it to the funeral, but he had left this write up for him, which again I thought was kind of cool. It's not too long; it just takes a minute here. But he said, so again, this was November of 2009. So my dad was coming up on his anniversary was in January, so he was coming up on. He was coming up on 29 years at the time, but it said, I most assuredly be dead 29 years ago, were it not for Jack. I was using Stella Maris as a revolving door, drying out, then drinking again. I made another trip to dry out in January of 81. On the fourth day of detox, and this is the part of hardcore Cleveland AA, Jack literally put me against the wall and told me I was killing myself, never going to see my children grow up or any future grandchildren. I left at the end of detox the morning of the fifth day and went home. Later, I came back to the evening meeting. This was not a normal thing that I did. Jack saw me, took me by the hand like a child, and introduced me to the secretary of the meeting and asked him to give me a job. Jack did that for all the rest of the meetings because I came back every day. And there were 8 per week at Stella Maris at the time. He knew how to deal with me and my ego run rampant. We've heard that word or that phrase before, right?
Yes, we have.
He told me to shut up and listen, do what I was told, and do the program and the steps in order. What a wonderful sponsor and a friend he became. Now, almost 29 years later, a day at a time, I have all those coupons that I clipped because Jack cared about this Drunken, never gave up on me. So, I read that actually at a meeting at the Keating Center one of the times that it was like a memorial meeting. I think it was either Jack's birthday or his death date or whatever it was. So it was like the Thursday night meeting, and like a bunch of people were doing like these memorial things, and I read that, and literally what I after I read that, and even reading it now, and I haven't read that in years. I mean, that could be the story for probably thousands of people, not just that Jack dealt with, but that guys, these are the guys that we got the pleasure of dealing with. And that's why, when I was thinking about that, I'm like, damn, I should try to find that obituary. And it's still up. Somebody's paying to keep it up all these years, so it's still available. So I grabbed it out of there. But yeah, I just thought it was cool. And I didn't realize what you had just said about the place for the sailors to dry out. That's fucking awesome.
Yep.
Now, do you remember there's a bar literally across the street from Stella Maris?
Right.
And what my dad used to tell me, and Phyllis confirmed it at one point, they used to actually take people over there, go over there and buy booze to even people out before, they had all the access to the medications and stuff like that. They would actually, they use that bar to taper people, which I thought was kind of funny. So, but yeah, you walk out of a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and literally, and I'm not kidding, right across the street there's a bar. It's weird, but yeah, that bar's been there probably as long as Stella Maris has.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's down in the flats in Cleveland. It's along the river that leads out to the lake, and it's really industrial, and sailors, man. This is a port town.
Right. No, that's kind of funny. I never heard that. Seriously, never heard that. But yeah, so like I said, just a little bit of insight and a little bit more into Cleveland AA, but and what we've had the pleasure of dealing with. But yeah, I mean, if anyone that's ever been around the Cleveland area, if you're not familiar with who Jack is, it would blow my mind, because he's talked about a lot, and they did write-ups on him in the paper. I mean, he was very public about it, did a lot of things for a lot of people. Once again, including these two guys that are sitting right here, talking to you right now. We're a product of everything that he did and passed along. So yeah, just very cool.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. So other thing too, and I almost forgot to bring this up, but I'm in a ridiculously good mood again. But this time I know why. I know exactly why, and it's two good things. So, and this kind of leads into the one topic about what's going on in my life. But my daughter sent me a text. I don't know, earlier this afternoon, and it was a memory of Facebook. So when I had told my story about what happened with my daughter, and I look back, it was episode 6 is the story I told. So if anyone wants to, I'm not going to retell the story, but it was too long. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't too long. It was just, it's too long to repeat right now. It's a good story in my opinion. It was, I'm glad I told it, but go back to episode 6 and listen to it. I think it's towards the beginning anyhow, but I knew it was coming up, and I knew it was in June when I got that text from her and when we became Facebook friends. So it's 10 years as of today that that I got that. Well, that I dropped my phone in my bedroom. But yeah, she texted me that, and I was crazy busy at work today. I only worked a half day, and I was trying to get set for again this next step in my little life journey. But when I read it, I said, I just texted her back. I said, that's one of the best days of my life. And it was cool. She texted back, so just said same, so it was really nice.
Nice.
But, and here's the thing. And the reason I wanted to bring that up, obviously it's great. It is wonderful. But if anyone out there is wondering, and whether it's, if you're wondering why I stay sober, that's a really good fucking example. And it's not just the story. It's the fact that this has been 10 years now, and I've been sober ever since. We've built a relationship. All these things that I have now are because of, this is just one example, but there's like my dad said, all these coupons, all these things,
Right.
But these are the reasons why we stay sober. If anyone's wondering, if you're looking for a reason, these are the things. And it didn't take 10 years for me to realize that, but today it was just wonderful,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, 10 years today, or 10 years ago today, I dropped my phone on my bed.
Dropped it on the floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's no doubt. I didn't know what to do. But seriously, yeah, go back and listen to the story. It's I think it's a good one, but maybe I'm not.
One of my favorites still.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I do. So now the other thing, and just to give a brief thing, and I put it on Instagram this morning. It was the last day that I was commuting to work, and it said that I'm about to be a temporary resident of Indiana, and I had kind of hinted on that a couple of things, but here's the short story with that. So my our mom is she's had some health issues. I'm not going to get into all details. It's not. I've always said before, I'm not going to tell somebody's story, but this is the circumstance. She's having health issues. My sister's down there. She's helping her out. I have the opportunity. I gave up my apartment here. I have an opportunity to move down to Indiana. Well, I put all my shit in storage. Everyone saw those posts.
Right.
And I'm filling up my car and taking my shit. And this is a very positive thing. Not as, again, like I said, not 12 years ago when I was being taken to detox, but
right. You're not running away from something. You're running to something.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you. I see. Once again, you put things in these ways. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so I have that chance, and it's not going to be forever. I don't plan on becoming a permanent resident of Indiana or anything like that. But I've got everything squared away. This weekend is the final weekend I'm here. The company I work for, I'm going to say begrudgingly, is allowing me to go remote. This week has been crazy and kind of shitty because I know my boss doesn't want me to do it. Plus, we got staffing issues and all these different things. And in my head, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going, man. I don't care.
Right.
I do care about the company, and that's one thing. I have this obligation in my head, but I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's it.
Right.
But it's been so stressful, and everything I talked about with those stories. So, I still have to do the work and all that sort of thing, but I don't have to be in that atmosphere. And it's not a toxic atmosphere. It would be a bad way to put it, but it's stressful, and I don't like the atmosphere. It's not fun anymore to walk into that office,
right.
So now I get to put myself hopefully into a more positive situation, and I'm looking forward to it. So, I mean, my daughter that was the main thing, getting that thing from her too. But I'm like, get this day over with. I want to be fucking done. So, but seriously though, and I was thinking too, and I actually made a quick note about that because, so here's all these things, and I just mentioned all the things going on. I'm giving up the place that I've lived for 7 years. I'm giving up, like you said, we talked about how much we enjoy being alone. I love my sister and I love my mom, but now I'm going to be, living with people again, which is fine, but it's different. My work situation is stressful. All this shit that's going on, and I thought about it. I'm like, these are the recipes when people relapse, because these are things that people talk about their triggers and shit like that. And you know what? None of this bothers me. I mean, the work situation is stressful, but I mean, I'm not looking at it. I'm not worried about any part of it. None of it. I have zero idea where I'll be in 3 months, what I'll be doing in 3 months, how any of this shit's going to go. But it's a positive thing, and I'm going to be there to help, and I'm not worried. And that in and of itself is awesome,
Yeah, absolutely.
So
what you're trying to say is you have faith.
What's that?
I think it's going to work out. What you're saying is you have faith that you're doing the right thing and things will work out because of that.
Right. Yeah. And that's a perfect way to put it. Cause I think you've always said before, when you're describing yourself, this atheist still has faith.
Yep. Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, it's all good. Like I said, I mean, I'm fine. I know I'll be taken care of by whatever's out there to take care of me. And it's cool, so, but yeah, that's what's going on with me. And and Mike and I were, again, he was talking about all the things coming up in his life. Cause I think the biggest thing that you were trying to, which I thought was kind of funny, you were trying to think ahead. What weekend is that? The weekend of the 15th?
Yeah. July 15th.
Yeah, and Mike in his text, he's like, he goes, we're doing this, we're doing that. We might have to do it on a Thursday or on a Saturday, and that's when the whole thing came up. When he's like, all this stuff that's going on, what am I going to do when I quit drinking? But but then I just came back. I'm like, man, I got more flexibility right now, or I will. I said, if you want to do it on Thursday, man, I'm done at 5. I don't have to commute anymore or anything like that. So, but we're already future planning a couple of weeks ahead for to make sure we can get this done.
And actually, while we're talking about it, it's probably going to be that Saturday. I'll probably do it from up in Michigan because I'm more than likely, I haven't done this in years. Well, have I done it since I've been sober? Yeah, I think early on I may have done it once, but I'm going to a baseball game by myself. I'm treating
Really?
yeah. It's I used to love to do it. Of course I was drinking, so that was, go to the ball game by myself and tie one on. But I know I've done it at least once. I've certainly been to ball games since I've been sober, but I've gone with people. Yeah, I just love it. I love going and sitting by myself, not being distracted, and getting into the game. And Detroit's going to be in town. They're going to be there on Thursday night to make up a rain postponement from earlier in the season. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get off work. I'm driving up to Michigan the next day. I'm taking my ass to a ball game. What will I do if I get sober?
And that's awesome because when you said that, I thought you were going to say you've never been to a ball game. I'm like, I knew you did, but yeah, by yourself, that's cool. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. No distractions, no nothing. I just be watching the game. It's a beautiful thing.
Right. Yeah, and that's awesome. So they're playing in Cleveland, though, huh?
Yeah.
Very cool. But yeah, Saturday's fine by me. I don't care. Just all you got to do, let me know timing. I can work around whatever we need to work on. So not a big deal.
Cool.
Perfect. All right. So I had a couple of other things. Well, I got a few more things written down, but the one of the other ones that came to mind again, probably an idea from the podcast. So when you first came in, like this time, because I know obviously you've said you've been around at least sobriety in a program before, but this time when you came back in, what was the most important thing? And I thought of like three things: either the structure that we were under, the information we were getting, or the fellowship. Out of those, and it could be anything, but those are the three things that popped into my head. What do you think was most important to you?
Well, I've said this a lot of times. I when I do group at the Keating Center, I tell the guys this all the time, man. Look, this is not a rehab. The thing about the Keating Center that worked for me is it was a safe place to be. Yes, you had the fellowship. Yes, you had the structure. Those are all good things. I had all that stuff before, though. What it was a safe place to be, to go out and get busy and start working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what is encouraged. Not a lot of other bullshit about, getting in touch with your feelings and all that crap. And, it's go work AA, and yes, examples. And yes, you have the fellowship, and yes, you have the structure of scrubbing the tables 14 times a day. It's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. But again, like I said, I had that before in other programs. But I mean, the big one for me this time was the willingness. I was willing to go do the work, and I don't think I ever was before. I was again, I was selfish and self-centered and greedy and a taker, and I expected somebody else to do the work for me because that's what I did my entire life. And this time I went, all right, I've got to do the work. Like Bob used to say all the time, this is an inside job. And that's what it is. I need to change my inside. And the way I did it was I started changing my outside. I started acting as if, that's what the Keating Center gave me. It gave me the opportunity to start pretending like I gave a shit about somebody other than myself. And slowly over time, I actually did start to give a shit about somebody other than myself. But it took time, that was, it took a long time. I'm still working on it. Trust me.
Well, you know what? And I think that's, and not only the saying, and we joke about, that we use that as our fallback, hey, it's progress, not perfection. But, the funny thing is when I first and I don't know if I ever said that on here yet, but when I first heard the whole progress, not perfection, I looked at that to begin with as a loophole. Because I'm like, then if I fail, I'm cool,
Right.
But then, I mean, thankfully, after listening and getting involved, and even though I wasn't fully committed for that first 9 months, being around, and you know what, I never thought about that when you just said that. I mean, not that I didn't think about it, but that having a safe place to be, because we talked about that a little bit, but that was, I think that might have been huge, for me also,
Right.
because I never had any of this before. So I never had I had the information from my dad. Once again, I knew about the program. I had been to meetings, of course I met people like Jack, all those different things, but none of that really, it stuck, but it didn't. And I understood it, but I didn't. So, I mean, I didn't get it. So I really never had any of it. But so I had all that stuff that was new. And honestly, to begin with, for me, I think the safe place, Grant, that I agree with you 100% on that. But I think the people, the guys there is what kept me there. And because they were, they were really cool, and the guys cared about things. I hated the structure. I couldn't stand it. It just, and I remember so I came in on that Friday. I wasn't allowed to have visitors the first weekend. That's usually the rule. So the second weekend, Mom came in. I don't remember if, I don't think maybe Kathy was in town, but I know that Mom and Uncle John came in. Maybe Mom, Uncle John, and Gail. I don't remember if Kathy came in. Regardless, they were asking me about stuff, and I was basically telling them, like, I've never been in the military before, but that's, I think, what this is. And what had happened, like that first week, and I don't know if you were even there yet. This might even happen the first weekend. So it was after, let's say it was after lunch. We were in obviously the lunchroom, and here's one of the deals that when the food was served, it's like you get in line, you eat. When you're done, you take your plates up, and then the food goes away. Dishes get cleaned up. Everything gets cleaned up, done. And it's like it's open and closed. There's no meandering. There's no dicking around. This is lunchtime or dinner time or whatever it is, and you're done.
Right.
So we did that, and I'm just following along with everyone, cleaning up stuff, whatever. And then a bunch of us were outside sitting under the tent, just kind of hanging out. And Marty comes out the door, and he's like, "Everyone, get your fucking asses back in here." And I don't. That's why, I know I was super new, but I don't know how or what day this was, because I'm like, what the hell? Right. So we walked back in there, and somebody didn't push a chair in. There was one chair out of however many chairs were in there. I don't even know. It was a ton,
Right. Yeah.
And somebody didn't push a chair back in after we cleaned up. He made us clean the entire dining room again.
Yep.
And I'm like, God damn. So I was telling them that, so that the structure, again, I hated it, but I got used to it, after that time frame. But, then I think over time, obviously the information, started to sink in. But truly, I think that, the guys that I was meeting, like, again, you and I didn't really meet. We did, but it's not like you and I were friends right off the bat.
Right.
But it was just people around there. I felt like we're all kind of in the same boat, and I started to realize that. And I did. I started to enjoy the meetings. It took a little bit, but I started to enjoy the meetings because it was, hanging out with guys and stuff like that. So, but yeah, the willingness too. I didn't have that, but that came over time. But yeah, that's great. I didn't know if you and I ever talked about that. And again, random thought, that it just popped into my head. And along those same lines, and I have thoughts on this, but when you were in the programs before, maybe you've got more, I know you've got more experience in this, but what do you think is like inpatient versus outpatient, like a 28-day program or longer? And again, I know we were in a sober living facility, but do you have opinions on inpatient versus like an IOP or anything like that?
I've only done an outpatient once, and it was again, half-assing it. You talked about the chair, man, and the thing that a couple of things came to mind when you were talking about, there was one chair that wasn't pushed in. Therefore, the task that we had to do in that particular moment wasn't done correctly. right? Our sponsor, Joe, used to talk about a box of cake mix, right? There's a picture of a cake on the front. Now, you can take that box of cake mix and take the ingredients out and kind of throw them together. You're not going to get what's on that picture, that cake on the front of the box. You need to turn the box over and read the instructions and do them the way that they're written. You know, that's how you get that cake on the front of the box. That's Joe's thing. Half measures avail us nothing, right? Doing things gets us nothing. That's my experience with all those other times I went into programs and did things. I half-assed it, I quarter-assed it, I eighth-assed it, and got nothing. You know, and that's, again, the Keating Center. What the hell's that got to do with staying sober? What the hell's that got to do with working the program? Fucking chair in, man. You know? This job that you had to do, you didn't do correctly. You did not complete the task. Do it again. You know, that's why this shit worked for me this time. You know, they showed me by example over and over again. And again, I know that came from Jack, because Marty definitely learned everything that he does at the Keating Center from Jack. You know, that's how you do it. Shove you against the fucking wall. Put that finger in your chest. You're dying. You're hurting the people you love. Fucking stop and do it this way. Do it our way. You will get the results. You will get what we're trying to give you. If you don't push that fucking chair in, the job's not done right. Do it again. You know? Remember the bathrooms downstairs, right? The sinks always had towels, right? You know, when you're done using the sink, wipe that fucker down, man. Dry it off. Don't leave water around. Don't leave soap around. In my bathroom, in my house, to this day, I have a towel hanging by the sink dedicated to wipe the sink down when I'm done. Nobody lives in my fucking house. Nobody knows. I wipe that fucking sink down every time I use it. I complete the job. Fucking A, man. That's why I'm still sober. That dirty plate's not in the sink. I don't want to fucking shoot heroin again.
And your bed's made. But you know what's funny is, and obviously you've been where I live a couple of times, and I have a hand towel up there. Personally, when I mean, if somebody comes over, I know they use the hand towel to dry their hands. You know, that towel, I swear to God, I use that towel for the same thing.
Yep.
And I never thought about that until you just said that. But we used to do that. We did that in a 3-quarter house. We did that when we lived together. I forgot that we did it in the Keating Center, but I know we did it when we lived together, and I do that every time. I mean, it's like, you know, when I get ready in the morning, and even just spilling my contact solution or whatever it is, brushing my teeth, they get a little bit splashed on there. That's just funny. Hello, boys and girls. Another light bulb moment for Bill. I'm like the rat in the cage. Every time I hear the ding, I get think I get something to eat. You know, but seriously, no, that never occurred to me. But yeah, I mean, all those habits, and I again begrudgingly, you know, did those to begin with. But I don't know if you and I ever joked about it, but I always thought in my head that, you know, I mean, what we were doing there, you know, Marty was like Mr. fucking Miyagi, you know, wax off, showing us how to get out there and fight life, you know. Yep. But really, I mean, he wasn't teaching us. I mean, again, it wasn't a rehab. He was teaching us how to live all these things so we could be decent human beings and continue those. And again, that blows my mind that I wipe off my counter and we learned it there. I never, dude, 12 years and how many months now? That just mind blown.
Yep. Oh, and trust me, I can't walk past a chair if it's not pushed in and not push it in.
I don't either. Yeah. No, I do it. I do it at work all the time. I'll walk in the morning and somebody left their chair out. I push it in. Same thing. I don't use my table to eat on. It's mainly been, unless I have company over, then I mean I'll use the table. But other than that, my chairs are always pushed in. Again, you were here. You saw my table.
Right.
we didn't eat at it. We ate in the living room on TV trays. But yeah. Wow, that's weird. Just freaking weird. But so when I went to detox, my family started looking all over the place, and again, I have no idea why. It just made me think of it to ask you, because I don't think we ever talked about it. But they had looked at first of all, I mean, the cost of all these different places, whether it was inpatient or outpatient. And I think Kathy had talked to somebody, and I think it was at the hospital, and the lady had recommended one of the IOP programs around here. And my sister is the one that. Kathy's the one that made that decision. Or at least had the thought. She's like, I don't know that that'll work for him. And she was, well, okay, I don't know if she was right, but I think she was. There's no way for me to know if it would have worked or if it wouldn't have. But I needed, I truly believe that I needed to be taken out of my atmosphere, out of my element, out of the area, even, to just be, and again, I didn't want to go, kicking and screaming like a fucking baby. But I think I needed that. But I do know people, I know a lot of people, especially around here. There's some great IOP programs around here. I know for a fact there. And I know a lot of people that have done them and stayed sober. I got invited. Did I ever tell you that? I got invited to speak one time at one of the IOP programs. This chick that I met through one of our meetings, just a friend, from one of the meetings, and she goes, you want to come in and speak one night? So I did. It was cool. It was great.
Yeah.
But but anything like that, I don't know. And I have nothing against, the 28-day programs or anything like that. Once again, I don't think that it would have worked necessarily for me. But I guess I'm glad I didn't have to find out. And I guess I'm glad I didn't have to take two options.
Yeah. Right.
So far, to this day, I have not relapsed yet. So I'm going to take that this works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, for me, early sobriety, I shouldn't be making any decisions, an outpatient thing. I mean, yeah, some people can, and that's great. For me, I couldn't, man. I needed to be immersed. I needed to, like you said, get out of the situation I was in, because that was the situation I was in, and I was drinking, and I needed to be away from that. And thankfully, I've never gone back,
Right.
Yeah.
It just, like I said, it's just mind blowing. And seriously, every time now that I wipe off my counter, I'm going to laugh, so it's just, I can't believe that I didn't know that, or notice that. So kind of along those same lines, and I had another question that came up, or another thought in my head. So in both of us, I think both of us have agreed that we don't have any, it's kind of what we were just talking about, no regrets about how we got to this point and what we went through and all those sort of things. But do you know of is there any time in your life that you can pinpoint back to think that, okay, and I don't mean it in a regret standpoint, but thinking that this was a sign or a key where you could have made a different path at that point and either stopped, or I don't want to say, not become an alcoholic, but maybe when you were troubled, a point where you could have said, okay, this is an area where I should have understood and I could have done something about it.
Nope. No. Every point in my life where there was trouble, where I tried to weasel my way out. I tried to keep doing what I wanted to do, because the root of our troubles is selfishness and self-centeredness. And I never changed any of that. So no, not at all. I'd get in, as they love to say around here, a jackpot. I would get into trouble and I would try to weasel my way out. I didn't want to change. I didn't want to do anything different. It was everybody else's fault. It wasn't my fault. I'm chugging along doing my thing. Fuck you. Yeah. Nope. Not a one.
But it was, and for me, honestly, I have the same answer. The reason I asked that was because there was a probably, again, in one of the podcasts, they talk about that. I wish I would have made this decision at this point. Now, granted, I've seen people that, in their, get sober in their 20s or even in their 30s or even in the mid to late 30s. I was 41, you were 43. And I think, I do these kind of like what if type of things, but that does me no good. And I know you feel the same way, not regretting the past and all that stuff, but still, keeping that door open just a little bit to realize what we did to get here, so we don't repeat those mistakes. I would think, if there was anything, but you just said it, it was everyone else's fault. My DUI was probably my defining alcoholic moment, but it didn't matter because I wasn't ready. And I know I said that, but as I was writing this out, I was thinking that you and I were probably the same thing, because I couldn't think of a time. The reason I was laughing so hard is because I thought you might say something along those lines, but I just didn't. I didn't think it would be that. Just nope, not at all. Nope. But seriously, I wanted to bring it up because then I'm guessing there might be people listening that either just got sober, whatever it is, they're having those regrets. And I guess the point of the conversation is that it is 100% pointless to regret anything that you did, whatever we did, or wherever, we needed to do those things to get to this point. And as painful as that can be, it just, and I hate it. I hate to say it this way, but it just is what it is, right?
The way we were taught was all of those bad experiences, all of that pain and that misery and loneliness and all that crap we went through, we need to use to help another drunk. With somebody else is going through all that pain and misery and loneliness, we can relate to them. Say, yeah, we were there too, and explain to them how we got out of it. So all that stuff that we went through to get to where we're at is useful, even though, yes, we can look at it and dwell on it and say I wasted my life, and I did. That's why I hate wasting time now, because I wasted literally a couple of decades of my life, but I didn't, because I could use that to help somebody else. So therefore it has worth, even though it is worthless to me. But it's not worthless to somebody else. Right.
I agree with you, because that's what, and I don't know how many times we've heard that, what other thing can you,
Nope. You there? Oh, hell. We lost Bill, kids. There you are. Wait a minute. Yeah, you are.
Okay. Are you? Okay. So, and it was funny. I just saw it. I was getting some sort of, this is the first time it happened. I was actually getting a phone.
Yeah. You're gone again. Hello.
Yep, I'm back now. Do you hear me?
I hear you now.
So same thing now, and this happened twice. Once again, for kids, professional. I'm not going to delete that. I'm not going to edit it, because I want everyone to hear it. Because now I'm going to explain it. So the first one was some spam call. I don't know, some 800 number. So I hit ignore on that, and then I'm thinking in my head, is this going to interrupt it? And then as soon as I was telling you what was happening, Kathy just called me.
Nah.
And I'm like, God damn it. So Kathy, when you listen, it is 6:18 at night, and you just interrupted our professional podcast. So
that's right.
But yeah, so the God, that just doesn't happen very often. But my thought got derailed. So all these bad things, very few things in life where you can take all these negatives and literally use those negatives in a positive way with other people. And I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't think about that, but there'd be no way in the world that we could help somebody, if we hadn't been there. You can't teach somebody how to do something if you've never done it.
Right.
So that's actually, once again, thank you, Mike, for explaining that in a really, really good way. But yeah, sorry about that with the phone call. Seriously, think of, are we in episode 18 now? So in 18, Yeah, 18 episodes. That's the first time that's happened when actually got a phone call in there. That's kind of funny. So
Yeah.
now, one other thing that I thought about too, and we just talked about, kind of leading into this, with all the shit they were through, and obviously all the people we heard. Did you when you did your amends? Did you have I was going to say like a plan. I mean, we all, I guess, tried to have a plan, but did you do it in like a very structured way and say, hey, I want to talk to you about something, or you just let it happen? Or how did you approach your amends? And I'm not looking necessarily for specifics or people,
Right.
but just even in a general sense, how did you approach that?
I made my list, my ninth step, or my eighth step, sorry. I made my list of all the people, pretty much everybody I'd ever come in contact with. And then that ninth step, the actual making of the amends, I'm still working on it. I've never forced my ninth step. I've never specifically gone and hunted anyone down to apologize to them. If someone's in my life that I owe an amends to, I just make that amends, that living amends. I'm not an asshole to them anymore. I don't hurt them anymore. I don't take from them anymore. I give to them. I try to make their lives better. Yeah, there's been a few people. Again, I've never forced it. I've never chased anybody down. My ex-wife comes to mind. I certainly hurt her, and I hadn't seen her in about 15 or so years. And there's a grocery store across the street from the Keating Center, the old Keating Center. And I was in that grocery store. I was about 6 months sober. And lo and behold, there's my ex-wife. Again, hadn't seen her in 15 years. 6 months sober. I said, hi, good to see you. Let her know that I was working on my sobriety. I was across the street trying to do what I was supposed to do, and said it was good to see you and hope everything's well. And that was that. It was maybe a 5-minute conversation. Since then, she still lives in Cleveland. I run into her. I see her at shows and stuff. We're cool. I've been to her house. I've had dinner with her and her husband. It's just that's it. I don't go out of my way to make it up to her, because I can't. I just live the way I'm supposed to live, living amends. That's how it's always worked for me. That's what I got. And I'm still working on it. That 9 step's never going to end.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because, two things. I don't think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you and I have ever actually talked about this specifically before. And once again, and I'll say this 100 times, and all these things I have no idea where these things come up. As they come up, I think about them. I put a note, and before I usually print this list off the night before, and I don't even look at it until we're about to sit down. So I have no idea what's on this list again, because this could have been from 2 weeks ago on something we never got to. But I don't think we've ever talked about how we did the amends. But first thing is the fact that you said it's never done. I'm glad you said that, because I think that a lot of people freak out and think that there's this list. I got to get them done, and I got to make it complete. And if I don't, I'm going to fail. Well, here's the thing. And this happened to me on a number of occasions. Two for sure I can think of. Probably 3 right off the top of my head. But one was an employer that I worked for, and actually went back to work for when I was sober. And I worked the employer that brought me back to the Germantown area, the Milwaukee job that I took. And she had reached out to me. We had kept in touch for a little bit, and then we lost touch. And she had reached out to me. And when I called her and I was talking to her on the phone, one of the first things I told her, because she was back and forth in and out of sobriety and in this and that. So she had her struggles too, even while I worked there. But told her what my deal was and this and that. And I said, I owe you a conversation. And she's like, no, you don't. I'm like, seriously, I do. I said, when because she wanted to talk about an opportunity, but I said, that's cool, but I also owe you a conversation. So we sat down, talked about the job, and then I made my amends to her, because I told her, I said, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But I was a dick, and she's like, yes, you were. And I said, I was obviously drinking at that time. And she's like, yeah, I know. She's like, at that time she was sober, but I apologized. I said, you didn't deserve to, to have the me that I presented to you at that time, because I had been a good employee and actually a good friend of hers for a number of years, and shit got bad, But the other thing that, and to your point about not chasing people down, I've had that happen where it's like you see somebody and you're like, oh, I owe that person a conversation. I may not even come out and say, like I did with her, because she knows the deal, but you're right, that ninth step, in my opinion. So theoretically, the eighth and ninth are never done, because as soon as I saw her, she became part of my eighth, and I did my ninth. But yeah, it was kind of it scared me to begin with, because I didn't know how to do these things. And my Kathy's husband, Mark, it took me. I made my amends to him. I just thought about this. I made my amends to him at Jody and James's wedding. Which was weird, because there was this. He never really wanted to talk about it. I tried. He wasn't out in Cleveland that much. I didn't see him that much. And at the times I did, it was holidays, and I'd never had that chance. It never came up. But it came up during the reception at Jody and James's wedding, and it was pretty simple. We were talking about whatever, and it came into it, and it was the opening that had never been there. And I said to him, I pulled him in, and I said, you know what? I said, this has been a long time coming, but I understand. I said, on this particular day, and this was after I got sober, but I said, I understand why you reacted this particular way. I know what I did to you, and I know how I treated you, and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, I completely understand where you're coming from, and I'm just trying to be a better person, whatever it was. And he looked at me, and because again, music's playing, so I pulled him up, and I'm basically whispering in his ear. And he's like, he looked at me and he goes, that's all I ever wanted to hear. He said, cool.
Right.
And from that point forward, we were good. And my sister came walking over after that, and she's like, are you guys good? Like, we're like, yeah, we're fucking fabulous, man. She's like, you guys just seem like you were in a deep conversation. I'm like, and he's like, none of your business. I'm like, yeah, it's none of your business. But now again, she listens to this. I don't know if I ever told her that. Well, now Kathy, now you know what, when I made my amends to Mark, but yeah, so things like that is, and I also had this in my head. I've never just said I'm sorry to people, because I told that story about my ex and what sorry means, and I think your exact point with your ex-wife is, here's what I'm doing, trying to be a better person. And you showed her, and I've been able to do that with a lot of people. And some people don't want to get deep into a conversation, and I don't think it's our place to force it. I mean, we gotta.
Really not.
Yeah, I mean, because all we're gonna do is make it worse. No, talk to me.
Right. Yeah, unless it would harm other people. Yeah, which is all in there. Right, exactly. But making the amends, and there's people I'll never be able to make amends to. I understand that too. There's people I'm never going to see again that I hurt. Okay. I'm sure as hell not going to drink over it. If organically I run into these people, I will show them that I'm a changed person. But yeah, the lip service, I'm sorry. Nah, because I did that my whole life, and it didn't mean anything. What I do today means something. And if they accept it, cool. And if they don't, okay. But I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, and that's what they tried to tell us right off the bat, is that we're not, and I think we even talked about that if people go into this amends process looking for to whatever they think is to be apologized to or be made whole in their mind or anything like that, you're going to be disappointed, because I've had individuals that I've made amends to, and they've accepted it, and then they basically accept me later on once they. Because the same thing. How do they know, what we're going to do,
Right. We were so full of shit before. That's what they knew.
Right. Yeah. And, and we're 6 months or a year sober. And do you remember, obviously, well, I know you remember Vinny that used to do groups with us.
Yeah.
Do you remember his story about walking into the woods? Do you remember how that went?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because I stole it and used it all the time. Yeah. You can't walk 10 miles in the woods, turn around, take 2 steps, and expect to be out of the woods.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You got to walk. You got to walk those 10 miles back, and then you got to walk another couple miles to be better than where you were. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lifelong thing, man. Yeah. And we can't take away the pain that we inflicted on people. We can't. It's done. All we can do is do the next right thing, not hurt people today. And if we're doing that, we got a shot at this thing.
Yeah, and that in Vinny, and God, I haven't seen him in years, but he was a few years behind us, right? I think
couple, yeah.
Yeah, at least I was going to say a couple, 2, 3, whatever it was, but and that's I guess that's the other cool thing because he was probably in a group that he said that to begin with, and I've used that with people too. I've said that I don't know how many times, because it's so great. It's a visual too, but but that's just another example that that you get somebody with. He's still, I'm not saying he didn't have decent time, but he worked a hell of a good program. He was giving back, doing the right things. And, even though we had a couple of years on him, I mean, he said this thing that stuck literally, I mean, clearly stuck with both of us. But it's true, and yeah, I mean, there's going to be some people. Thankfully, again, I never had somebody that slammed the door in my face or just said, fuck you.
Right.
But people don't forget, and I know I brought up my ex-wife. I know with my kids, and more so my daughter, because she's the one that remembers who I was when I was that. But
right.
Anything like that, if people aren't going to forget, but if we continue to like you said, be a good boy, do the next right thing, all that good stuff, and it's a never-ending process that I know you are too. I'm more than willing to continue that never-ending process because it's a. And it is, we've said it before, it's a hell of a lot better than the alternative, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Story. There was a guy named Adam, had a neck tattoo. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So in and out. And one of the times he came back in, I was helping him. I actually picked him up from jail. He stayed in my house a couple of nights before he went into the Keating Center again. And I picked him up for a meeting. He was about 2 weeks sober, right? And talking about 10 miles into the woods and taking 2 steps. So I picked him up for a Sunday night meeting, and we're riding to the meeting, and he's just going on, running his mouth, and I'm letting him. And he's talking, again, about 2 weeks sober. He's talking about completing that 9th step. I got to finish my 9th step, man. And I'm going on the whole way there. It's a 15-minute ride. So we get to the meeting and we walk in. I walked in with him, and Don Fox was sitting there at the table. Now, Don Fox has over 40 years sober. He was probably 38, 39 at the time. And we walked in, and again, Adam's been running his mouth the whole time. And we walked in, I looked at Don, I said, hey, Don, no context, no nothing, out of the blue. I said, hey, Don, when'd you finish your 9th step? And he just looked up and he said, I'm still working on it. And shut Adam up, thank Christ.
Yeah, I still see Adam on Facebook every once in a while. He'll disappear and he'll pop back up, and yeah, that's how I always remember his name, because he had the neck tattoo. I remembered Adam's apple. That's how I always remember his name.
That was it.
Yeah. But no, that's funny. Well, that's like me thinking that I completed my 6th and 7th step, and I just did air quotes when I said that.
Yep.
But no, I mean, I think that's great, because I mean, I don't know. We're supposed to do these steps, to the best of our ability, and we're supposed to live our lives to the best of our ability. But we can't be We can't be perfect, and it's impossible. If anyone said that they covered everyone on their 8th and 9th step, I'd say you're a fucking liar or you're a fool,
Right.
because there's just no way.
Yep.
I mean, there has to be people that you have no idea that you pissed off or wronged.
Mhm.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because we weren't fucking paying attention. We didn't care. We were hurting everybody in our fucking path.
Right.
Right.
Right. Exactly. But anything else on amends? I mean, I think that we covered everything, but I just wanted to check if you had anything else on the amends part.
No. Still working on it.
Okay. Yeah, me too. All right. So, and I know we're getting towards the end here. I got a couple of other minor things on here, but we'll let them slide. So I thought about this, and I had written this down before we had started. I was going to bring it up at the beginning of the podcast, but if anyone that's listening, and I'm not going to put this on Instagram, okay? So if you want to buy a Sober Not Mature T-shirt, we've got a few different T-shirts on our website in the web store. Once again, SoberNotMature.com. Or in the highlights on our Instagram page. Any one of the T-shirts would apply for this. I set up a promo code for one individual. She's going to buy a T-shirt. She's going to put it on her page. So I discounted it down to, I basically took away all the profit on it. So I set up a promo code for her. So if anyone, this will not work on a phone case or any of the smaller items because there's very little profit, if any, on there. So the code will not work on anything but a T-shirt. But it's the promo code is going to be SoberMat, so SoberMat, so SoberMat, and you'll get the shirt it's a $7 discount, and any one of them. It could be the Sober Not Mature. I put we got tank tops up there. It should work on all of those. If by chance that promo code does not work, or if it gets kicked on there, that just means that there's less than $7 profit. If you have a problem with it, feel free to message us. We can get that part fixed or give you a new code. But if you want to buy a T-shirt, again, that's cut down to, I think it leaves 62 cents or something like that, because I can only do it in even dollar amounts.
Right.
If you want a T-shirt, again, any one of the T-shirts, men or women's T-shirts, the tank tops, any of the different varieties we have up there, go ahead and order one. And so that there's your advantage of listening to this garbage till the end.
Nice.
Yeah, so if somebody shut it off a few minutes ago, well, you fucking missed it.
SOL.
Exactly. So, but seriously, I got nothing else, and we're at obviously an hour 6. But anything, my typical question there, friend, anything else on your mind?
Not a damn thing.
All right. Well, do your thing then.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. A couple of drunks running their mouths about sobriety. Give us 5 stars if you liked what you heard. Buy a T-shirt. Be good to each other. Be nice. And as always, fuck off.
I love that you turn those into this positive promo and then the fuck off at the end. I love it. All right, brother. I love you, and you and I will talk soon.
Love you too, man. Have a good night. Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.